Hey everyone, it's Alexis. I hope you guys are all doing well today. I don't know about you guys at home, but I have been feeling really left out of this month's craft box, the Tropical Craft Box. I've seen all the other designers getting to do videos on it, and I'm sitting here going, where is my opportunity? Well, today is that day. I get to work with our Tropical Craft Box for the month. I'm sure some of you have gotten it. Some of you might be waiting at home for yours to arrive. We're just going to keep coming to you with inspiration and tons of different ideas so that you always have a fresh take on anything. I'm going to use some components from the box. I'm not going to use everything. I will show you everything that comes in the box, but I'm going to use just a few small pieces to create these really cool little potted leaf scenes, I guess we'll call them. But I really enjoy taking small elements and turning them into something that people wouldn't normally think to do with something. So that's kind of my inspiration behind today's make, is to take something small and to actually turn it into something completely out of its normal use, I guess. So before we get started, I'm going to show you what comes in this month's craft box in case you didn't know. We've got a couple of different die sets. We've got our nested square die sets. I am always a huge proponent for any of our nested shapes because I think for any crafter this is a necessary item. It's just to have basic shapes, especially ones that fit in together. There's a lot of really cool project ideas out there that you can do with nested dies. So I think these are just great basic things to have in every crafter set. So I'm glad that they're in this month's box. And then you're also gonna get this really cool stamp framelit set. This is from chapter 2. It's called Detailed Tropics. And it comes with all of these really beautiful botanical dies, but then you'll see that there's the stamp set and the sentiments. Well, the stamp matches up with the wreath, and this is actually was one of my favorite stamps that we released so far this year, and you can color them in. It's just a really nice, beautiful summery kind of thing, but I really can see this being used year-round for anything that you do. All you have to do is just change out the colors. You can make that Christmassy, you can make it fall-oriented. It's just a great everyday kind of use. You're gonna get some of our maker's tape. I love this. I use it very often to hold down my dies in place, or with the nesting squares, any of the nesting elements. If you wanna create like a frame, you put them together, well, you use the maker's tape to hold your elements together when you're going through, because it's a low tack tape. It doesn't destroy your paper as you're using it. You're also gonna get our embossing ink pad, and you're going to get 2 of our glitter embossing powders. So this is Lush Leaves and Earl Grey. Great colors to work with sentiments, but also to work with the leaf elements that we have in the dies that it came out this month. I'm going to set those off to the side. You're also going to get 10 sheets of our assorted cardstock colors. I love our assorted cardstock. There's so many fun colors. But you're gonna get all of these ones right here. There's Cherry Blossom, Primrose, Banana Blast, Mango Tango, Green Tea, Lush Leaves, Agave, Mermaid Kiss, Arctic Sky, and Bluebell. We like to tell you guys the colors because of our color story. We have matching colors within our range of products. So our glitters and our embossing powders and markers and felt, they all match against our assorted cardstock. So that's why we like to give you guys the names so that you can then associate them with the other items in our range of products. And then you're also going to get, I only have 4 here because I've used 1 in the make, but you're going to get 5 sheets of this really heavyweight white cardstock. This is perfect for card bases and really any die cut elements as well, but comes with some great heavy duty white cardstock. You can't go wrong there. So now I'm going to show you what I'm going to be making. We're going to be making this fun little, not terrarium, it's like a potted plant. I will call it that. Like I said, I took some of the smaller elements and I created like this whole little scene with it. I'm going to show you another option that I did at the very end, but this is what I'm going to actually be making on camera right now. You can see that I have used the embossing ink and embossing powders on top of the leaves to give them a really fun texture, and then I did some fun little cutting down here on one of the square framelits so that you could actually create a different base for your flowers or for your plants, pots, whatever you wanted to do it for. So we're going to die cut some of the elements real quick. I am going to first cut out, I'm going to get my square. So I'm going to go with that, the second largest square. And then I have also prepped for this. I'm going to use the Earl Grey embossing powder on top of that, but I wanted to die cut the sentiment out of a cardstock that's dark, so I've used the agave. And then I pre-adhesive backed that with adhesive sheets. When you're working with really intricate dies like this, where you can see it's really small, I just want to have ease when I'm adhering them down to the card. So I have used an adhesive sheet on the back of the cardstock, so when I go to actually die cut it out, it becomes a sticker. So I'm going to cut out my sentiment. I'm going to cut out my plant pot base out of one of my square framelits. And I'm going to put that at a slight angle just to make it easier to cut out. And then I'm also going to cut out one of my Monstera leaves. I've pre-cut a lot of the elements just so you can see the techniques more so than me sitting here cutting. So there's a few other elements I'm going to be using today as far as our tools and accessories that don't come in the box but are available on our website if you're interested in any of them. And then if you're interested in any of the products I'm using and want more information on them, just pop some questions in the comment section. I love to hear what you guys have for feedback. If you have ideas that you would want to use with the dies or ideas that you're inspired to do, I love to hear about all of that in the comments. So I've got those elements right there, and then like I said, I'd already pre-cut some additional pieces. So I'm going to start with that. Get those out of the way. So I've got a pair of scissors right here. So what I'm going to first do to get my plant pot is just cut at an angle on the corner. And then to guarantee that I get the same cut on the other side, I take that piece that I cut and I just gently lay it in and hold it with my fingers. And then I cut that exact same shape on the other side. That way I get a guaranteed even, an evenness between the two sides. I pre-cut some very thin strips of the Lush Leaves cardstock. These are going to act as my base for the, I guess the stalks of each of my leaves, and then I'll cut those down to size. I also cut a really thin strip of the agave, and I'm going to use that to create a decorative element on there. So I'm going to start with that first. Just going to use some express glue to adhere this on, and then I'll trim the edges off. Don't need a lot, which is nice, so I always recommend just gently layering that on. And then I'm just going to put that first strip on. And just lightly tap it in place. That way the glue doesn't come flooding out. And then I'm just going to trim that and repeat that again to get to the other stripe. I like doing stuff like this, just adding little details that make it feel more personalized, something that you might see in someone's home, like a basket or a planter's pot, anything that really just has a little bit of a decorative element, whether it's geometric or floral. You could even just do like a whole strip all the way across. I liked the idea of doing two. And then I wanted all my leaves to have like a really different feel to them, so I decided to cut my leaves out of two different colors. So I did Lush Leaves and green tea, knowing that I was going to leave some completely as the Lush Leaves and some where I was going to combine the two. So I've pre-cut some pieces and I already put the embossing powder on them, so you can see how fun that just adds like a nice texture to your leaves and gives them a little bit more life. So I'm going to show you how I did that. You're going to need a heat tool for this, and I'm going to start off by first getting some ink on my leaves. So I am gonna do a full Monstera leaf with the Lush leaves. And what I do is I just put it face down into the embossing ink pad. And I just use a pair of tweezers. So I'm using our fine tip, our fine tip tweezers. And I'm just really pushing that in, and you'll be able to see the ink on there. It has like a wet look to it, and it's made the front of it darker. Then what I'm gonna do is place this into my funnel tray. This really helps keep the mess out of the way. I'm gonna cover this up so it doesn't get any embossing powder on it. And I'm gonna use my Lush Leaves embossing powder on top of my Lush Leaves leaf. And then you'll just, I like to kind of do this to get away most of the excess. And then I'll take my tweezers and tap off the extra. So now you can see I've got that on there. I'm gonna heat it up with my heat tool. I like to heat the back first because that seems to set the front a lot faster. So I'm gonna do that real quick. This is gonna be hot, so I'm not gonna touch it yet. I'm just gonna lay it off to the side. And so you can see I've already done that on a couple of leaves. So I've got 2 right here completely done. And then I've also created 2 right here with half and half. So I'm gonna make 1 more so I can get a half and half. So in order to do that, I'm gonna do 1 more of these Lush Leaves with ink all over it. And you can make as many leaves as you want. You could just do a couple of different fronds and call it a day. I like to have a really full scene, so I have gone the extra mile. One thing I do want to note is that you can push down on just little spaces throughout. You don't even have to do the whole thing. You could create one that only has half of the ink on it, and it'll give it a nice cool effect as well. Or you could just not push as hard and not get as much ink on there, and then it'll look a little more patchy, which I think would be fun because that's more realistic of what leaves look like. Out of the way because I'm done with this for the time being. And I'm gonna set this one down to the side. So I wanted to show you something real quick. You can see right here that there's some crease marks on the leaves. That's to give them a more realistic look, but also that crease line down the center is perfect as a guideline for cutting your leaf in half. So I can see where it is on the other leaves, so I'm just gonna cut straight down the center. So I have 2 halves. And then you're just gonna take some express glue and glue 1 half to one of your green tea leaves and the other half to another green tea leaf. So you can see that all the leaves are really starting to come together. And you could do these in a variety of colors. You don't even have to do like traditional leaf colors. You could do monochromatic. You could pick someone's favorite color palette and do something cater to them, or even you could create plants and leaves that you like that look like plants in their homes or their favorite kind of house plant. So then the last thing I'm going to do before I start to assemble is I wanted to give my sentiment a little bit of an extra touch as well. So I'm just going to use my funnel tray to get everything back into the pot. That way, nice. See how see how the mess goes away. Can't put my words together today. So now I've got my Hello sentiment from the Detailed Tropics set, and I'm just going to place that face down like I did with the leaves. But first I'm going to make sure this green is off there. And then I'm just going to push that also into... You can also put this down on a piece of paper and press the ink pad on directly on top. I just don't like wasting my ink, so I like to just directly push them into the ink pad so I feel like I'm not wasting my ink pad as fast. Now on this one I'm going to use the Earl Grey on top of it. And then just dust off the extra. And then we'll heat set this as well. Now because it's got an adhesive sheet on the back, I can't heat the back first, so I'm just gonna start with the front. Okay. Set that down while it cools a little bit and clean up my mess, and then we'll start assembling our card. Now our embossing powders come in 20 different colors, so we're using just 2 of our range in the craft box, but if you are interested in any other colors, I think my personal favorite is the Mermaid Kiss. It's such a fun, vibrant color. But if there's other colors that you like that you want in your collection, they're all available on our website. But now I'm going to put this whole thing together. So we're gonna start first by kind of laying out where we want our pot to go. So I'm gonna start it over here. And I've got my palm fronds. So I've made 6. So I'm gonna just make sure I cut this down so I have 6. So I'm gonna start with one tall one behind, and I'm gonna trim this down just a little bit. And I'll start just kind of gluing everything into place. I find when I'm creating a scene, I like to lay it all out first, which I've done on my card already over here, so I'm using that as my guideline. But since I kind of know where everything's gonna go, I'm just gonna start laying down all the pieces. But usually I like to lay everything out first, make sure it's all gonna fit nicely, and then keep moving things from there. So I know I'm gonna need like some shorter ones over here. Now I'm kind of keeping my base flat, but I wanted to have pops of dimension on the card just to make it feel a little bit more lifelike. So behind some of the Monstera leaves, I have used our foam tape so that I can get differing heights just to create dimension. So for example, on these ones I've doubled them and put some foam tape. So now I'm gonna cut a couple more. So you're just gonna put in all your stems, and then I usually will put the leaves on after because I want them going in differing directions. Just make it feel more organic to what a plant actually is like in your home. And I wouldn't worry too much about these stems right here because you're gonna cover them up with the leaves. So whatever height you end up putting them at isn't that big of a deal because they're gonna be covered up for the most part. So that's all on there. So now I can put on the base of the plant pot. And I'm trying to leave enough room over here for my sentiment. So that's where that is. Now I am going to lay out my leaves so they can kind of get an idea of how I want things to look. with this one up here. I like to just get an idea, and then I'll like fine tune things as I go. So I'm gonna just start kind of adhering them all into place. I've realized I've missed one. So I'm gonna actually stick one more right in here. I was like, I know I have 6 leaves, but I only have 5 stems. Like I said, it doesn't matter the height so much, it's just the look at the base that it looks like you have all of those. So I'm gonna start with, I like to work from one side to the other. That way I can really kind of layer them in on each other. So I'm gonna start with this far side right here. And I'm just using liquid glue, but if you wanted to, you could pre-adhesive back all of these with adhesive sheets. Keep it nice and clean. And then these ones I've already got the foam tape on, so I'm just gonna peel the backing off real quick. This is actually where your tweezers come really in handy because they can pull the backing off a lot easier or get that going for you. This one just doesn't want to work with me. There we go. I'm going to tuck this one underneath. And if you wanted to be able to like pull up the leaves so that it wasn't flat, you could just do down the spines and then pull up the leaves, the edges of them, to give it a little bit more of a layered texture effect. There we go. To kind of go at a downward angle. And then with my hello, I'm just going to peel off the backing on that. Makes it a lovely little sticker. And this is where I love not having the mess. So I'm just going to put my sentiment right there. And just like that, you've got some fun little home decor feeling cards. These are I think this would be perfect even for like a new home, as a housewarming card, or just as a friend, like as a miss you or thank you. I actually made this one using some of the dies from the set as well. So on this one, I used the square framelits again and created some different little flower pots at the bottom. And then I used, trying to find the die set real quick. I used this die right here to create all these different various plants, and then I did the same thing where I covered bits and pieces of it with the embossing powder, but you can see I kind of got to pick and choose where that was on the card. Or not on the card, but on the leaves. But what I also did is I trimmed away sometimes half of the side. So that's one thing I like to show people, is that you can take different elements and create them and put them and make them your own. and have really versatile types of dies. So you don't just have to use the shape. You can cut it in half, you can cut it down to size, you can kind of use it any way that you want, and then you get to create your own really fun multi-layered scene. So I really hope you enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun making them. I'm really excited I got to do something with the craft box, and I hope you do too. We've got one coming next month. I already got a sneak peek at it, and it looks really pretty. So I hope that you will check us out next month. And if you got this month's, I hope you got tons of inspiration and that you got some fun new technique ideas along the way. Well, I will see you again soon, I'm sure, and I hope you guys all have a great